So the life, dynamic life, carrying out his behests. One day we are playing cards with Baba. Card game. 6 of us are there, including Baba. And we deal the cards to Baba and the rest of that and all that. 3 on each side. Baba, we knew the habit of Baba also, I don't know. So whenever the cards, when we deal out, and if the cards are not favorable for him, he says, no, it's not shuffled properly, and you throw them. So we'll have a good joke and all that. He was man amongst men, most natural, human. And then of course the card game will again start and all this sort of thing. One day, one afternoon, after he saw the card, I mean, we played one game, one hand, and then he threw the pack on the table. And he sits down and says, for the first time it was shocking to hear, you know, I would like you all to go out and meditate. First time in my life and the last. So we look puzzled now. What does he mean by that? We have heard the name of meditation. We have heard that men have to meditate and all that. But for us to go and meditate now, for the first time, Baba said it. So I says, where will you go? Go and sit out there in the campus, the compound there. Go and sit there and meditate. Then before we leave, naturally we have to go there. We don't know what to do now. So he says, what will you all do? Meditate. But what do you mean by meditation? What will you do? So now he is the one who is explaining to us. You know, each one go and sit separately there. And when you hear me clap once, you shut your eyes and relax. When you hear me clap for the second time, you start your meditation. So what will you meditate? How do you meditate on God? I want you to meditate on God. You don't know. You shut your eyes when I give the first clap, and then bring before your mind's eye the effulgence. Okay. We can't say what is that and what. You know, the effulgence of God is such, it's like the blue of the sky. Bring before your mind's eye. You know how the sky then clears day? And what will you meditate? On the effulgence, the bluishness of the existence, whatever it is. We are simple human beings, we don't know anything. Oh, yeah, meditate that. Bring before your mind's eye about the existence of God. And where will you be? Where will you be while meditating? On the spot where you are. No, that's not meditation. And we didn't know what to see. What was he trying to aim at us? He says, do one thing. When you hear the first clap, first of all you settle down to place. When you hear the first clap, shut your eyes and ease yourself and feel at ease. And then when you hear the second clap, and bring before your mind's eye the effulgence of God. That is, the bluishness of the firmament and all that. And then, what you have to do is, you have not to be anywhere. You have to be in it. Because there is no place where you will be. You are always in it. So bring before your mind's eye that you are in the effulgence of the Lord. And when you are there, then just be there. Enjoy it. And when you hear the third clap, whatever you are doing, immediately leave and come back to me. So then Baba said, now you go. So that's how we get the 5 of us. We go there, each one selecting a spot, and each one sits down, waiting for the first clap to be here. First clap came. We shut our eyes, feeling at ease. The second clap comes. We bring before our mind's eye the effulgence and the sky, blue environment is there in the effulgence. And we try to sink into it, be in it, and all that as Baba has explained to us. And as we are, it hardly 2 or 3 minutes must have passed by, and as we are feeling the, I should say, the charm of it, it's nice to listen. Not just, you have to leave there and come back to him. You can't start playing the game. That's the first and last time he has asked us to meditate. I tell you, it was so good. He wanted that we should have prolonged it. We were absolutely there, you see, buoyed up in there. But this is how he wanted us to do. First and the last. I don't know what he has said about meditation chapters as it's called. Because we never read all the discourses, we never read anything. He wouldn't allow us to read it. We don't know.
Why did he want you to read it?
We had to be with him, not to get distracted. You are asking the question. Asking the question why the Westerners are asking. So you are Y squared, you are.
I have another why question.
What do you think?
I asked it today to Rusty and he said that, how, yeah, so why? Does he, Baba, want that, or why didn't he want to do the women and men together? Is it because of the same reason that the Martin
One-pointedness should be there on Baba and all that sort of thing. Yeah. But who said that Baba wouldn't allow men and women to be together? The world is full of men and women, you see. Yeah.
For me, it's difficult to express myself in English. Maybe not allow, but I mean, we live in the campus separately, and
like at the Pilgrim Center, you mean?
Yes.
One settlement on the
yes.
Yeah.
And I read it also that.
So that's what his principle is. That's how it should be.
Mm.
Yeah. So that we may not be distracted and just sit for gossip or do this or do that and all that. So that's how it is.
Also because that's a very capable and strong instrument he uses for us to bind ourselves to him. You see, freedom doesn't come of its own. We are pursuing freedom as a goal, the goal of freedom. And we misinterpret the word freedom and saying freedom means do what you like. But that's not it. In order to free ourselves, we have to bind ourselves to him, the one real permanent one, so that we can free ourselves. So then, in the binding, which means there are a lot of little daily sacrifices. Baba, surrender. Obedience comes to surrender. Surrender is not something you just give once for all. Surrender is something that happens daily. Daily, the little self-denials, the little sacrifices, the little disciplines. We never think of the inner discipline. But when we think of a material thing, we are ready for any discipline. Look at the ones who are going to enter the Olympics. Look at the strict, hard discipline they submit themselves to. But for the spiritual thing then, in their obedience, this is nowadays, especially nowadays, it's always been sex, men and women, is a very prominent thing. It has become something that covers over. It's become too big, and that is a wonderful instrument for Baba to work with, for our freedom, for our emancipation. And therefore, as I said, just as an architect uses a model, makes a small model of what is to be, our life with Baba was a model. Especially Mera, who mustn't even hear the sound of a man's voice in that long period. But Baba never, he kept his, obedience is a flexible thing. Today he says do this, tomorrow he says go to the pictures. But all the time we still observe that circle of discipline that Baba had put. We never stepped out of that circle. And that today, as you will agree, is a very strong instrument for Baba to use for his work. And therefore Baba used it in such a way that it's amazing. It's amazing how, as I said, like Mera, in our cloistered life up on Merabad Hill, we never stepped out of the gate. We never stepped out of the premises. We never went out of the gate. But even going from our room, east room, to the kitchen, we had to go through a passage. We had no windows. We saw a patch of sky from those little windows up there, transoms. Even today when I'm sitting in front of the Samadhi after Aarti, when the music is going on, I look back that side to where Mera's shrine is, and that area represents Merabad a lot to me somehow. There's a feeling that still remains intact. And when I look from here over the awning, I see a patch of blue sky, and reminiscent so much of our days in the room, where all you could see was a bit of sky from that, or you could see raindrops from that, which I loved watching. And so Mera, nobody could come in. Nobody could enter our grounds at that gate. Outside the gate is a water tank, underneath which is a room. Marcy, Kosh's mother, was our watchkeeper and our timekeeper. She always had this old kitchen clock, which was always going wrong, was always being repaired. And so she would sit out there and she would watch. If anybody was coming from the men down below, first had to go through Marcy. She would ring a bell. And if we were in the kitchen, we'd shut the door, although nobody's going to come in. And then she would take the bazaar that had been ordered, the vegetables and all, and then the second bell meant, okay, you can open the. Now once in a while, somebody would come into the gate, allowed to come, like a plumber, or some work had to be done by a man which could not be done by the others. So when they came, when a worker came, a stranger, they talked. They talked in the sense that, no, put the pipe here, no, give me that spanner, and blah, blah, for what? And Mera mustn't even hear the sound of a man's voice. So I had to play the sitar to drown the voice of the plumber or whoever it was. And once I remember, it took so long for the work to be done, I thought it would never end. I played every tune imaginable. I got a blister on the finger that plays, so I used my other finger, I used my third finger. 2 hours of constant playing the sitar, so that Mera was told not to read. So that doesn't mean not to read books or magazines or anything like that. It meant don't read. So all the kitchen tins had to be covered up, because on some was written Quaker Roads, although we never had Quaker Roads. These tins. So I would cover it up. These are not in itself important. You understand? It doesn't mean that if we all put labels over the Quaker Roads, we'll get anywhere. No, it's the obedience. It's the self-denials. We never thought for a moment that why or how can it be. No, this is what he said, and absolutely, we never felt deprived in our life of poverty, purity, and obedience. We never felt we were deprived of anything. There is a richness in things that we know not of unless we're with Baba, unless when it's given from God. And it's so rich. We would trade 1,000 times that, even in the new life. His presence completes everything, fills in every nook and cranny of our lives, of our hearts. It's just amazing. So that is why he uses that instrument. And that is one of the directives from Baba that is very difficult to obey, from what I understand. But I tell you, even if one makes a real effort, even one step, really take towards him in that, he helps, he takes many steps. Our obedience should be such, it should be like the Kalyan, the disciple who was so famous for his, who has become famous to us. It was very natural for him to obey his master. So that when the master said, Kalyan, can't you see it's dark? Go bring the lantern. He went out, not only in obedience, but it was dark for him. So when he brought the lamp, he even stumbled, although he could see. But to that extent, that obedience, that perfection of obedience was. And Baba would tell us. There was Ayaz, also a great one. So Baba would give us examples sometime. We were not all that perfect, because whatever, all that I tell you we've done, even that from Baba's way, and there was much more we could be given orders. We were not, I suppose, given all, but whatever we were given, we not only carried them out, we never gave it a thought. So Baba said sometimes when something wouldn't be exactly to his liking, he'd say, be like Ayaz, the disciple who obeyed so perfectly. Be like Ayaz. Don't be like Piyaz. Now Piyaz means an onion. And you know what happens when you cut an onion? You weep. Don't be like Piyaz. Always be like Ayaz.
When you told the story of him asking for the time so many times, I thought of Kalyan. How, it's one of those things where, Kalyan's obedience was so immediate and so always tuned.
Yes.
That's what we gather from that anyway. And maybe that was another way of reminding,
Mani, in the seclusion time, how much time did you spend during each day in the East Room? Would you spend half the day?
Well,
most of
yeah.
the time
Well,
out?
our time was only between the East Room and the kitchen.
Nothing in between?
No. I mean, for baths or necessity like that. No, nothing.
So like hours together?
Oh, yeah. They
Days,
spent all day there in the East Room embroidering Baba's things that Mera made. And it was...
And did you go for walks on the hills with him during that time?
No, except that when we went to the bathroom, then we went out to clean the cages of the birds that Baba had left. That's when Khorshid got an infection, and that's when Mera and I took over. And of course we believed and Mera had that wisdom. Mera had that practical sense, which was amazing. It was amazing for. So she would tell her how a bird's cage should really be cleaned, how it should be, so that it's so comfortable for the birds, and little hints, little practical hints and points. And so when Khorshid was sick and couldn't do any more, and of course we implemented all the other aspects of how to look after birds in Mera. But the marvelous part is we forgot the main thing. We forgot to shut the door of the cage. And the birds flew out. And one of the servants came into the East Room and said, the birds are on the roof of that passage. Well, naturally, where else would birds be? I mean, we couldn't understand. No, at last she conveyed the fact that it's the bird from the cage. Oh, my God. But Baba forgave. And he got a whole new batch. Baba was working with the birds too. It wasn't just... so all the birds had to be released. And then a whole new batch had to be brought to look after. We didn't understand. We didn't want to understand. We didn't try to understand. What was there to understand? Just having Baba is more than enough. It's so total, so complete.
Were the birds special birds? I mean, like average birds, like pigeons, or were they specially?
No, they were salangus. They have this little crown here when they're flops and they can bring it up. But they sing very nicely. Mara's always been fond of that. We've had all kinds of birds. Yes?
Well, I'm just curious because Mansari talks about and wrote about all the walking you did on the hills. Was that a later phase that you would go walking with him on Mirabad Hill?
Yes, that's after then when Baba, that was a little later, but still we were cloistered, still. When Baba takes us for a walk, that was the donkey. Is that what she was talking about? We were riding the donkey and we would go out, just 5 of us, Baba and 4 of us. There are pictures of that. I mean, nobody could come in, so I took the picture, and then when I was in it, Kosha took a picture. So, yes, it was still very strict. It was still strict. But with Baba is different. With our own wishes, no. And that was only for a few minutes in the morning. Beautiful. Mirabad seemed endless. No, even the horizon didn't seem to contain Mirabad. We would sit there and you could see, seemed like for miles through the barbed wire that was there at the time. All you heard was a bumblebee once in a while, or the doves. To this day, whenever I hear a dove, I think of Mirabad. You're right there. Yeah.
Mani, I was wondering, you expressed before, I guess it was in the movie, that you always knew that Baba was God. And I wondered...
A little louder.
That you always knew that Baba was God.
Oh, yes.
Ever since you could remember. And I wondered what really stuck out as making him God to you, if there was anything.
Have you read my book, God Brother? No, there's lots of it in it. No, I always knew Baba was God. I always knew. I think from the time I was born. But it's all there in the book, God Brother. That's your question, isn't it?
Yeah, how was he different for you? I mean, what was the...
Because he was both to me. He was my brother and he was God in one. And now which story can I tell?
Oh. Well, one thing you know, Kitty would ask you to read her book if you asked her a question, and you're really getting off easy because Mani's book is this thing.
You like it? As I've said in that book, to me it was as natural as a child knows a chocolate, a biscuit, a bird. You know, it's as natural as that. There was not even a learning or I just knew that.
I
Yeah?
I guess I just say that because when I was really young, you know, the concept of God was so nebulous. It was sort of like, I mean, when I was growing up, I was trying to conceive of what God was and who God is and everything. And it sounds like for you, it was just, it was just there, you know.
Yeah. I had it ready-made.
Let's call it.
And you see, it's not from a home environment either. Like Baba Lava's children come to learn Baba as God, and because I mean, we didn't have pictures of Baba all over the house or things like that. In fact, we had a picture of King George and Queen Mary. There was a picture of Zoroaster. and there was a picture of a Glaxo baby, very pretty baby that all the Parsis, Zoroastrian homes had for some reason. And but I knew. In fact, it was so holy. I was absorbed in this, and Baba's that in our neighborhood, in our lanes where we live, mohalla as I say, there would also come a set of people, Gujarati people, that have a particular traditional folk song called Garba. It's very beautiful. It's totally different from the other dances and songs of India. We have many varieties here. So they would come in those colorful costumes, and then they have these brass pots, this one brass pot over the head with the greenery inside, a plant. They place it there, and then they circle around, clapping hands and singing. But they ask you, because you've invited them, you're going to pay them a little something. And they ask you, what name shall I? And I would stand up on the top of the entrance of our house there, up the steps, and I'd say, Meher Baba. And I was that little. And they would sing, Meher Baba Mara Jane Moado. And then go around, and I would feel so. The sad part was when I had to step down and give the money. He wasn't just a part of my life, he was my life.
Stan, you love your dad?
Yeah.
Why do you love him? Do you know him as your dad?
Yeah.
How do you know? It's like that, you see.
Yeah.
You are there, that's how it is. Yeah. Not because others say that he is your dad, but you know that he is your dad.
You see, it's a continuation. It's a continuation. It's not something that just drops or is. It's a continuation of many lives. So one reaches that point. Meera, the great lover of God, one of the great lovers, when she talks about fulfillment, this is the fulfillment of a promise, of a longing. Anything you long for, anything you seek, ask for, in His love, you will always get it. And so this is a continuity. You know, isn't it how I'd asked Baba about how one of the questions I asked Baba, did I tell you the other day? You were here, no? One of the things that I regret, we all do, that we didn't ask Baba questions. There was no room for questions. That we had no questions. But now we tell ourselves, we should have asked Baba this, and we should have asked Baba that. Then when they ask us, we could have shown off, But we didn't ask, and we done it. One of the few questions I asked, we were in Baba's room. He was seated on the bed, seated like that. That was not just his bedroom, his room, where we would sit before him. I would read to him. Maranol would serve him his lunch. It was like a living room of his. So we were. What's it?
Question.
Yeah. So one of the questions that came while we were sitting there, it came to me. I said, "Wait a minute. This somebody was allowed to come and see Baba, and he came and he was very much, fallen in love with Baba, and he goes and all. But what happens if he dies and if he comes again?" I was really thinking of it in general, but I'm giving you an example of this person. So what happens to the ones who love Baba now, who have seen him, who have come to know him, who have recognized him, and then they die, and then they're born again, and then they have to look for him all over again, search him, maybe find him, maybe not find him, maybe miss him. And this thing grew a lot in my mind. And I suddenly asked Baba, I said, "Baba, what happens?" And I asked this question. If someone who was come to you now and he dies, well, what will happen? Will it have to start all over again, looking for you, searching you, missing you? And Baba suddenly assumed a stance very personal and intimate. Like I felt there was only Baba and myself in the room. I'm not talking of this as an experience. I mean, it felt like that. So Baba looked at me and said, "Oh, very intimate. No, it's not like that." He said, "You pick up from where you leave off." He said, "It's always a going forward." He did this gesture, never going backward. You know, and it was so lovely to hear that. That's right. It makes sense. So that made me realize how important the present is. It's not the past, it's not the future, but the present. How close have we gotten to Baba? How much closer can we get to him before we have to start over again? As simple as that. So it's a continuation. And that's why I like that song of Meera, the great lover. She says, you earn God. She says, I purchased my beloved with the longing of my heart, with the tears of my heart, with the sacrifices of my heart. These are alluded. I mean, this is just what I'm saying. But she says, and then she says, some say he's, he's dark, he's not worth. Some say he's fair, some say he's this, some say you've done. But I've taken him, I've chosen him with my eyes wide open. Then in the end she says, Meera kahe, Meera ke Prabhu giridhar nagar पूर्व जन्म का कोर सखेरे पूर्व जन्म का कोर सखेरे मैं तो लियो पिया मोर सखेरे मैं तो लियो पिया मोर मैं तो लियो पिया मोर 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 Re, Matolio, Piamor, I purchased my beloved. Koi kahe kalo, koi kahe guru, liya hai aankhein khol sakiri, liya hai aankhein khol sakiri. Then in the end she says, Meera ke Prabhu गिरधर नागर पूर्व जन्म का कोल सखेरे. The promise is a fulfillment of the promised of past lives. So he fulfills what you have purchased with your longing, with your heart. He fulfills that promise. He never leaves a promise unfulfilled. It's just for us. Too long. That's the price only. I think I've talked too much. Methinks I've talked too much. Jai Baba. No, you didn't have to like that.